Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss videos in the future. And if you like this video, don't hesitate to hit like and enter a comment down below. I try to answer all of your questions. If you pulled the engine and transmission together, you need to separate them. Using a jacking cart like this makes positioning easier and reduces the chances of tearing up the pilot bearing. Remove the clutch, it's heavy. Don't let it fall. Bolt the engine stand mount to the block. If you left the flywheel on, leave enough clearance to turn the engine over. Take the opportunity to get as much coolant out of the block as possible at this point. Then slide the motor onto the engine stand and lower the crane to remove the chains. Remove the factory headers. An air impact can actually be more gentle than a hand wrench for this job and can reduce the chances of breaking a bolt if you set it up right. That's not good. I think that motor mount is done. Take off the motor mounts and the crank pulley. Remove the water pump bypass hose, then remove the water pump, making note of the position of each fastener. Take pictures to help with reassembly. Tape the exhaust ports and plug the water passes in the front cover, then clean up the exterior of the block before opening it up anymore. Engine degreaser helps here, and use plastic to protect your shop floor and make cleanup easier. This motor is still dirty, but I've got it cleaned up good enough that we should be able to take it all apart without contaminating the heck out of it. So we're going to go ahead and start tearing the thing down. The vast majority of this motor is just going to go away, but we're going to keep the block, crank, rods, pistons, etc. Replace pretty well everything else. Remove the valve covers. Use a shop vac to help clean up loose debris and gasket shards as you go. It's good to try and keep the engine and parts as clean as possible as you take it apart. This engine had cork valve cover gaskets, which suggests someone had the covers off before. Remove the lower intake. It's a good practice to undo the bolts in the torque sequence and in steps. Sometimes the lower will just lift off. Sometimes you'll need some gentle taps with a soft-faced hammer. There's never a need to be too rough with it. Take pictures as you go. That's a free and easy guide to help you reassemble the engine and document everything as it comes off. Remove the factory rocker arms. You don't have to have the cam on the base circle for this. I use a separate Ziploc for each valve, which keeps the parts clean and organized if you ever want to put them back in the motor. I marked the upper end of the push rods with a marker, but if you are really going to reuse them, you should stand them up in a push rod stand or at least a cardboard box or something that will retain the order and orientation of the push rods. Take the intake spider out. Don't drop the little bolts and set it aside for reuse. Remove all the lifters. I bag them with the rocker arms in the corresponding Ziplocs. Remove the cylinder heads. I back the head bolts off in the torque sequence, then remove them. Keep a bolt at each end in place until you're ready to remove them. Then, steady the heads while you pull the bolts out and lift them off carefully. The stock heads weigh about 50 pounds each, so get a good grip. You don't want to damage the deck surface by losing control of the factory heads at this stage, even if you're throwing the heads away. Clean up any debris that falls into the cylinders right away. It's just a good practice to keep everything as clean as possible right through the disassembly. Pull the balancer bolt and use a balancer removal tool to get it off the crank. An air impact lets you remove this bolt without having to hold the flywheel, and if you set the torque down on the impact, it is not harmful to the crank threads. It's best to remove the oil pan before removing the front cover. You're going to get more coolant and oil running out of the motor at this stage, so be prepared for it. Finally, remove the front cover and you're ready to start replacing the cam and oil pump, or the whole rotating assembly if that's in your plans. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that you won't miss out on future videos.